wake up
glad morning
to sleep no more.
you was a dawning.
Happy I'll be.
One street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
I am with you. That wouldn't be bad, though. Oh, yeah, usually. No, I had my AirPods in. Okay, I will. Not at all. Hang on just a second. All right. All right, I'm ready. How's that? Is that better? Okay. Sounds good. All right. Perfect. Thanks for the advice. Okay. And you're the first person that's ever told me that, and I've done plenty of phone interviews, so I appreciate that. I hate doing this. You sure you want to do it? All right. Sure. All right. Sure. So we can go into family dynamics later in terms of parentage and ancestry if you want. But I was mentored by the late Adrian Rogers. He's a pastor at Bellevue Baptist Church, and he used to alliterate everything. So I have my 6 M's. So right now the first M is monasticism, right? Not marriage. I unfortunately got divorced a couple of years ago. So 4 beautiful kids, ages 12 to 21, and they're doing amazing. Second MBA, I got an MBA at Vanderbilt after getting frustrated in the medical field because I love medicine, but healthcare is just broken, and I wanted to be able to sit at the table and discuss the economics of healthcare and actually get listened to. So got an MBA, fell in love with entrepreneurship, so developed a couple of startups, and I'm doing some other stuff in that area now that's exciting too. Third M is medicine. Graduated from the University of Tennessee College of Medicine in 1993 and ended up almost going into neurosurgery, but got talked into family medicine. Long story there. But because I missed the OR, then also jumped in and went back to the OR with OBGYN. But now I'm doing emergency medicine, so I staff ERs here in the state of Tennessee. Although I'm expanding my licensure because I'm starting up a new concierge practice that's dedicated and focused on chronic disease reversal, longevity, and human performance optimization. That gets pretty interesting. The fourth M is military. I was in the U.S. Army National Guard for 14 years, 10 of those in the Special Forces, the Green Berets, with 20th Special Forces Group out of Alabama. I got deployed and all that good stuff. Did some stuff in Panama during the old drug wars in the 90s, and then went to Afghanistan in 2002, right after we kicked off. And now still am involved. That's transitioned into more of the political sphere, just being politically active, social media active, just trying to influence and change hearts and minds, which is also the motto for Special Forces. The next M is ministry. Started off actually in seminary, and weird story. I got in med school when I was young. I was 19, didn't know how to study, never studied before. Flunked out my first year. Went to seminary, came back, and did great. But I started off, really in seminary. Got ordained in the Southern Baptist Church as a preacher back in '93, and have a master's in theological studies, and now also a Board of Trustees member at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee, and a member at Brentwood Baptist. And then the last one is music. When I was a young man, trained in New York at the Met, and then in Vienna at the State Opera House in classical vocal performance, and then also do classical and jazz trumpet. Marla Lunza was my idol growing up, and still is vocally. So that's the short, brief one of that. Thank you. Do you really? Yeah. What are you talking about? No, I'm kidding. It's fantastic. She's an amazing woman. I got incredibly fortunate. Our paths crossed in Texas, not quite 2 years ago now, but she is different than anyone I've ever met, and I'm incredibly excited about her. So she was widowed 11 years ago. Actually, I think it was 11 years ago tomorrow. 11 years ago tomorrow. Her husband was the first Solicitor General, her late husband, first Solicitor General of Texas, appointed by Senator Cornyn. He was AG at the time, and then followed by Ted Cruz. And she's politically active, does a lot of stuff. And I tell people she is the unseen grease of the conservative movement, on the wheels of the conservative movement across the country. And she says no, she's not, but she really is. She's amazing. I could go on and on, but I'll spare you the details. Thanks. And I'll tell you, she's really rescued my heart. I mean, the past, those 3 years, 3 to 5 years were just incredibly devastating on multiple fronts, and yeah. It's been about a month ago. Yeah, it's been about a month ago. Yeah, it was very recent. Yeah. So interestingly, 2 years ago, actually, when was it? 19. So almost 3 years ago, that tweet on abortion sort of rocketed me up to what you're saying. And then it sort of was on after about 6 months. 6 months of just crazy stuff, and then went silent except for little books here and there. And then I had a story probably two months ago. When was Afghanistan? 2 months ago, where we pulled out. And I tweeted. I actually put a Facebook post up. I think I was the first to immediately call for President Biden's immediate resignation. I think Senator Blackburn echoed the same feeling about 5 days later. So anyway, it mmade national. It got picked up by national media, Western Journal, and some other stuff. And then I got picked up by. It went crazy again. For like 2 weeks, from Newsmax to Epic Times to Fox News and Fox Business. I was also on with Fox Business with Liz McDonald and Senator Haggerty. So. Yeah, and that was all about, Biden and the whole Afghanistan thing. So with Huckabee, we were talking about Afghanistan, we were talking about COVID, and I think that was it. We had 7 minutes or whatever it was, 6.5 minutes. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It really is. And, I want to spend, I mean, I'm looking forward to discussing COVID, but I'd really love to spend more time on nation and kingdom. Um, okay, okay, yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and the problem is we hear so much from both sides and in the middle, and we just don't know what to believe, and we hear so much that isn't so, even from from great people who are really concerned. So on both sides, and so I want to try to break it down and just get scientific and medical, and not get political, because I think that's what everybody needs and wants. So we know that I've pronounced more people dead in the past 18 months than I have in probably my entire career. And that's basically from COVID. Last year, the average age was in the 50s. This year, the average age was probably 10 years younger. It's a real disease, and it's been devastating. I know people try to minimize it, saying, "Well, it's only 0.6% or whatever," but When you're there telling a family their loved one's not coming back, I just can't. I just don't understand the apathy and the dismissal of death when it's real people. And I think those people who do have just either never seen people die or never had to deal with the consequences afterwards. So it's definitely devastating. Where did it come from? I really think that it was a weaponized virus out of the Wuhan lab that was funded by the NIH, and I feel Fauci knew and was fully aware but denied it. And I feel like he needs to be criminally liable for that. And I don't know why he is still holding the position he is. Regarding the vaccine, yes, I've had significant concerns. I do think that it does work in terms of diminishing the severity of disease. Yes, you can still have COVID. Yes, you can still spread COVID. But after having the vaccine, your risk of death diminishes significantly, precipitously. Do I think children need to have it? Definitely not. I don't understand this rush to immunize kids. They say that, it'll help protect older people, but if the older people are immunized, what does it matter? And then the other thing is, I think the damage of the vaccination to children at this point is unknown, and the risk is much greater than the actual risk of disease for kids. What about mandated vaccines? I'm completely against it. I feel, okay, employers have the right to mandate whatever they want as a condition of employment. I mean, that's our country, right? I mean, they can mandate you wear a certain uniform, that you wear a certain kind of, whatever. They can mandate all sorts of stuff as a condition of employment. The federal government should not be in the business of mandating anything. And I really push back hard against that. This whole CMS thing, I mean, we're losing in the hospital I work at. I'm not gonna say where that is, but what I understand is 23 nurses from the emergency department are getting fired in 2 weeks because they're refusing the vaccination. And there are other physicians that are going to be losing privileges because they're refusing the vaccination. And that's their right, but because of the CMS mandates, that is becoming a huge problem in an era where we already have 20% of healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors, physical therapists, you name it, already retiring early and leaving the field because of all this stuff. Already we're having, horrible staffing shortages in the hospitals that's causing great harm to the rest of us as well as patients. So now we're going to go around and start fighting even more. It just doesn't make any sense. And then in other states, I know they're hiring foreign nurses to come over, like from the Philippines and others, to staff our hospitals. So it's a mess. It's a mess. I have, we both have friends in the legislature. One of them texted me, actually, Representative Chris Todd. We were fraternity brothers in college at Union University back in the 80s. He texted me a letter that he signed on to, along with a couple of dozen other legislators, encouraging hospitals in the state of Tennessee to uphold already written code from CMS and accept every religious and medical exemption without discrimination. So I just hope that the hospitals do that. So the risk now, the disease has gone down in terms of the incidence. We're not seeing much of it at all right now. It's still happening, but my fear is that, it might peak back up as we go through the winter. The immunizations, I feel, are partially responsible, at least partially responsible, if not wholly, for the encouragement of variants, particularly Delta, that has been so much more devastating than the original wild-type virus. So I'm assuming you've never had COVID? So I would not. Okay. Yeah, I would not make any assumptions. If you didn't test positive for COVID, you haven't had it. So that's what I would say in terms of decision making algorithms. So number one, if you've had COVID, you do not need the vaccine. Period. And I don't know why they're mandating that people who've had COVID have the vaccine. That makes no scientific sense. And it's just I think this whole COVID thing. I'm starting to think, not starting, but I've been thinking for a long time, as part of this whole nefarious mess that they're pushing on us with CRT and gender issues and all this other junk. It's just part of the whole thing to take down society, I think. So I know that's all conspiratorial, but I think if you've had one Johnson & Johnson, you probably do need a booster. If you've had two of the others, the actual disease provides so much better protection than any immunization. So if you've had two immunizations, I don't know that you necessarily need a booster, but I'm going to leave that up to you to decide. So the other thing is all this other stuff. It's driving me crazy that pharmacists refuse to fill medications that doctors prescribe, like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and all this stuff, because we know the stuff works. We don't. And the fact that they're pushing back so hard against it and censoring physicians and threatening physicians and pharmacists going off on patients and telling them they're crazy and idiots, which has happened, is completely inexcusable. Yeah, I've changed, and as you learn more information, have more experience, I think our opinions change, and people get upset with that and say, "Oh, well, you said this last year and that." But as we grow up and as we learn more, we change our opinions. So I was saying earlier, at the very beginning, no one under 40. As the variants came out and younger age groups started getting affected, I was like, okay, 35 or 30, and now I think that's hard. I'd say 20, because we've seen people sick and die from both. I've seen vaccine complications that have been pretty significant as well, but I've seen many, many more disease problems than I have vaccine problems. So I would say 25. Yeah. I'd say either the Moderna or the Pfizer. I did Pfizer, and I should have only done one because I got COVID after I got the vaccine, probably 2 weeks later. But it was a very mild case. I had sniffles for 3 days, and that was it. But then I didn't want to get a second. I ended up getting the second like 8 weeks later. But I probably should have just stuck with one. Yeah. No, flight surgeons and diving medical officer. And I got out as a lieutenant colonel. You know, I've been so discouraged, Laverne. I don't know how we save our nation. I mean, I know how we save it, but I don't know how practically that's ever going to happen because we're so divided. The socialist and Marxist parties have such a deep roots that are decades old, and they've been intentionally dismantling our republic for decades. I mean, since the '60s, maybe even the '50s, and maybe even before that. But we're so far gone. We've lost this generation of kids. I say kids, you know, because we're now in our 50s. um, yeah. So, and I feel like we have let them infest our education system, and they've brainwashed a whole generation of Americans that I don't know how to get back. I mean, other than just our country being completely demolished and then people in the future rebuilding what we have lost. Because, I mean, you know, we can start with anything. We can start with taxation. I mean, the fact that we are at where we are with, I mean, if you add up all the taxes, people end up paying, I don't know, what is it, 60%, 70% taxes, whether it's sales tax or road tax or gas tax or this tax or that tax. And the same dollar gets taxed multiple times by the federal government based on where it goes. And, I mean, it's ludicrous. The government has swollen so large that, I mean, it's not what the founders ever foresaw or wanted. I mean, I guess they foresaw it. You know, this kind of government is only for a just and righteous people, and we're no longer just and righteous, and we have the government that maybe we deserve that controls us now, where the federal government can just break into your house and punish you for nothing without a warrant. And, you know, they don't like something you do, and they can tax you to death. And, I mean, I was watching Reagan's speech at Goldwater's when he was campaigning for Goldwater in '64, I believe. I watched it last night. It's half an hour, and I'd encourage everybody to watch it. It was amazing. And the same things he was saying is what we're now dealing with, the aftermath. And, you know, he was warning about it then, and we've let it go. And I don't know, I mean, it's so maddening, Laverne. Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, 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 exactly. And that's where I am. I mean, yeah, I was driving down the road, and this is probably a couple of years ago, thinking, I can't just keep complaining. I've got to do something. I mean, what's happening to my kids? It's like, their future is threatened. It's not just ours. And I think that is the key. It's, no longer taking it. And people are standing up all over the country, from the Moms of, for Liberty here in Williamston to, the groups in Virginia and Loudoun County, and people just saying, we're not taking it anymore. This will not happen on our watch. And that's what it's going to take. It's Americans all over the country saying, yeah, I might lose my job. Yes, I might be canceled. Yes, my bank may cancel my account, and GoFundMe may cancel my account or whatever. But I'm not going to allow this to happen. And that's what it's going to take. And that's where the hope is, I think, is in people actually standing up and speaking out as a group. One person can't do it. One person can be a leader and a voice. But it's going to take all of us standing together and not. The problem that I've seen and you've seen in political parties, county political parties, is that there's so much infighting and ego hustling and people jockeying for position and taking our eyes off the ball and forgetting what we're really trying to do. What we need to do is bind our hearts together and stand up together and tell them, no, we're not taking it. And it starts, and if our legislators aren't representing us properly, then they need to get replaced. No matter how good of a person they are, or how much we like them, or whatever, or what they say on television, or what are they doing, and what are they actually out there leading the at the very front of the line, saying we're not taking this anymore, and this is what's going to happen. Not trying to make amends, and not trying to reach across the aisle, and not trying to be nice and be liked and hold a position, but actually saying we're not taking this anymore. We're reducing taxes. We're getting the education system back. There are only two genders. We're putting God back in schools. We are, teaching our children the history of the United States. We're not systemically racist. We're not guilty because of our race. No reparations. I mean, who was alive today that was a slave, or who was alive today that owned slaves? Nobody. So, roads aren't inherently racist. Bridges aren't inherently racist. I mean, enough of this baloney. I would love to. I'm open and here to serve if he opens the door. And there are a couple of offices that I would run for, but nothing in the immediate future. Saying nothing in 2022, unless congressional districts are redrawn, lines are redrawn. Wouldn't that be great for you and me to both hold office together? See, that's right. Yeah. The problem with humans is we don't recognize threats until they're right on us, and then it's almost too late. And I think, for decades now, I can't remember if it was Churchill who basically warned us about China. But, it's been decades that, we've known that China was a threat. And maybe it wasn't even Churchill. Maybe it was even Napoleon back in the 1800s. I don't remember. But so for the past 20 years, Bush came out with his axis of evil, and he was saying, Iran, Syria, and North Korea, and then he invaded Iraq, like it was a really big problem. And I don't think it really, we can go into that. That's just, but, right. But at the time I thought, okay, those are issues, but they're not mortal threats to our nation. The biggest threats were Russia and China. And I think China continues to be. And I don't know why we are in bed with them as much as we are. And I think our previous president, 45 Trump, was right on target checking them. And I think it's going to take somebody like him to check them again because our current president is not doing a good job at all. But I think our biggest national threat is ourselves. What's happening here in the country, the Democratic Party, Washington, D.C. is the biggest threat to our nation. But I think the largest external threat is China. They're rapidly massing a huge navy, a large army. They have imperialistic goals, and they will not stop unless they are stopped. And I don't mean, going to war with them. I mean, because right now I don't know that we could contain them because our military is in shambles. Starting at the very top with the leadership of the Pentagon. But, because they are more focused on gender reassignment and hormones and all that stuff, and CRT than they are with the actual good stuff, or what the necessary stuff. So I think China is, I think, I was thinking they're going to probably take, with everything they're doing, I thought they're going to take Taiwan before Christmas, and there's nothing we're going to do about it. And they're crushing us economically. We're crushing ourselves. So, yeah, I'm a little worried about China. But at the same time, I've been to China. Chinese people are wonderful people. And that's the thing, I've been to almost 50 countries. We have problems with various governments, but the people are people. The people are wanting the same things. They want peace and safety. They want to raise their kids in peace. They want to have a roof over their heads and food in their bellies, and they want their kids to be educated and become engineers and doctors and lawyers. We shouldn't be hating on Chinese people. It's the governments and the people, the power brokers, that are the problems. It really does. Um, yeah. So, her, yeah, her late husband clerked for him, and so after his death, they sort of adopted her, and she runs Justice Thomas's cleric alumni group, and then also Ginny Thomas's. She helps with her PACs and her grassroots efforts. Yeah, they can make a power couple. They can make. I think you mentioned three things: COVID, politics, and then kingdom. So let's finish out with that. In terms of hope, because when we look at our nation, it's discouraging and frustrating and maddening. But we're not citizens of the world. We're citizens. Well, we are, but we're not. Ultimately, we're citizens of heaven, and ultimately, you're right. He wins. And we say that, but we're spoiled here. I mean, we've been used to so much free, and we're not a free country anymore. We talk about freedoms, and they tell us that we're free, and we try to tell ourselves we're free, but we're not free. I mean, we're now controlled. We can't go where we want. We can't do what we want. We can't say what we want. We can't spend our money like we want. I mean, now the IRS wants to know anytime we move any money around, even $600. I mean, what kind of communist control is that? But what we are, and I'm getting back into that. What we are is we're kingdoms. We're citizens of heaven, and we have brothers and sisters all over the world that for millennia have lost their lives and lost their freedoms for the sake of the kingdom. From people in Albania when it was communist to everyone behind the Iron Curtain who are believers. The largest church, the fastest growing church right now is in China. Chinese Christians are multiplying by the hundreds daily. And Christians in the Middle East and in very tight Muslim countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, who are really paying a price for their faith, are living joyful, full lives. So we still have it pretty good. I mean, we focus on our political issues, but we forget that what we're really here to do is advance His kingdom, not the United States, not any other nation. I mean, we do because we live here and we love the country and we love our history, but ultimately we're citizens of heaven and representatives of Jesus Christ. And if America goes away, which it probably will at some point, ultimately who we are is His. Me too. exactly. And yeah, I mean, there's still great hope, and there's still plenty of opportunity, and it's not too late. I mean, it's not too late till it's too late, and it's not too late. But it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of dedication. It's going to take a lot of suffering and sacrifice and pain, and people are going to have to stand up and take some hits. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I mean, we can't live in fear right now and say, well, if I do this or say this, then I might lose my job. I might do this. I mean, it's going to happen, and the question is, how much are we willing to sacrifice to save the nation that we love? Yeah, sure. You mentioned midterms. A lot of people are running for a lot of different positions. And I would just caution people, don't vote for somebody just because they sound good on a stump. I mean, what's their history? What have they stood for? What have they sacrificed for? I mean, are they just a big corporate person with, are they just a good talker? What are they going to actually get up there and do? Are they going to make some noise? And they don't have to make noise. They have to be effective and bring results. Are they people who are actually going to effectively change the course of our country, or are they just going to be more of the same? Are they really just searching for position for themselves, or are they really interested in the nation? And I think it takes discernment, and I think it takes insight, but I'd say most people that I see running need somebody different. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say all these guys who are ex-special operators, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, etc., I mean, they've put their money where their mouth is. They've sacrificed. They've gutted it out. They've given up a lot of privileges to get where they were, even just to get through BUDS and Special Forces selection and all that. I mean, these people I trust, especially, our combat vets who know what's at stake. And I'm incredibly excited about seeing that. We don't want to turn it into a military state, but I think military service is, for me, a huge part of whether or not I vote for somebody. I mean, I'll vote for somebody who's not had it in a heartbeat, but I think that just adds so much more. Right. Yeah. Yep. No, so I have today off, but I've been working for the past few days, and then I'm working tomorrow, and then I'm off for 3, and then back on for a couple. So. if you guys would just put me on your daily prayer list. I mean, Satan's always attacking, especially when you're saying stuff like you and I do, and you're out on the leading edge trying to change hearts and minds. Satan's always attacking, and it's difficult. It's really hard. So just keep me in your prayers. And you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, just, at Omar Hamada or Omar L. Hamada. I try to respond to messages, although sometimes I get overwhelmed with how many. So. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, she's spending the week at the beach with her family, and I'm going to spend it with my kids up here, but because I'm working. But we'll get together after. Sounds good. Thanks. Football. You too, Laverne. Best to you and your family, and happy Thanksgiving. All right, bye.
Your local news from WSGI. The Monday recap of Friday Night Lights. It was Henry County 23, Springfield nothing, East Nashville Magna 17, White House 14. Robertson County